Everybody, what is going on? It is Crypto Bobby. I hope you are having a great day, great night, wherever you are watching or listening in from. Welcome to another episode, another edition here of Crypto Happy Hour. Happy Friday to everybody. If you're on the East Coast, hopefully you're out of work and enjoying Friday evening. If you're out in the West Coast, sucks, you're still in the office. But yeah, wanted to pop in today to hang out with you guys, talk a little bit about the Tether Bitfinex scenario, the shenanigans that is going on over there. Also, some nice news that broke courtesy of Nathaniel Popper, and also the block covered it, which was E-Trade. Apparently, E-Trade is looking to offer Bitcoin and Ethereum to their 5 million plus retail accounts, which is pretty legit. So a lot to cover today, and obviously interacting with you guys as much as possible too. Apologies for, let's say, a slower week of content. Had a product launch this week with AirSwap, so was pretty busy with that and just some other stuff. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. But yeah, definitely appreciate everybody taking the time to watch. If you are watching on YouTube right now, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Helps to get this out to as many people here as possible. And being that it's Crypto Happy Hour and it's Friday, the last couple times on Crypto Happy Hour, I have not been drinking anything. I've been being a weenie boy. But this time I have Pinhook straight rye whiskey. I don't know really what it is other than the fact that it's rye whiskey and it's close to 47% alcohol, and it was in the liquor store downstairs, and it was in my price range, and it tastes like rye whiskey, and it will give me a nice little buzz. So you'll have buzz Bobby. So that'll be a good time for you guys, hopefully, as well. And what do we got here? So giving everybody a second to pop in. What's up, Stefan? What's up, RC Phantom, Patrick, Dumbo, Drew, and shout out to everybody that is on Periscope and Twitch as well. So the big news that I'm sure has been covered ad nauseum so far from numerous people is the issue with Bitfinex and Tether, and it's been a whole big back and forth. I'm sure a lot of you guys have followed up, unless you literally haven't tuned into Twitter or YouTube in the past 24 hours. There was this whole letter sent by the New York Attorney General to Bitfinex and to Tether, accusing them of kind of a variety of things. But the biggest issue is apparently Tether is in the hole for about $800 million to their payment processor. And the funniest part, so there's a lot of funny parts of this. I personally do not use. I'll say a couple different things. I personally do not use Bitfinex. I really don't use Tether at all either. So I have no money in Tether. If I'm gonna use a stable coin, I'll use either DAI or I'll use like one of the audited US based ones like Paxos or GUSD or TUSD or USDC. I'll use one of those instead. But there's now that the New York Attorney General came out and threw out this like war of words, essentially, or there's been a war of words from Bitfinex. Bitfinex has formally responded. And the funny part is where Bitfinex says we didn't lose, or, the $850 million is not lost. That's categorically false. What is in fact happened is this money is in fact seized and safeguarded in several jurisdictions. So the money is not lost. It's seized and safeguarded. And, it's $850 million. What's like close to $1 billion between friends? That's no biggie, right? Not a big deal. So obviously that crashed the market, or the market absorbed it, I think, a lot better than most people would have, likely expected if this were perhaps a different time and there was maybe not as much optimism, kind of from top to bottom. Bitcoin went down about 9%, but really settled on the day down around 5% or so, and has remained pretty steady today. So, 5% for that. It's been absorbed nicely, which has been relatively surprising. The one thing that I would absolutely keep an eye on is the kind of the element of a potential bank run here. You could keep track of it. There is the kind of the whale bot on Twitter and a number of other services out there, but you can look and you can see how many people are I believe it keeps track of, the whale bot keeps track of orders above 500 or transactions above $500,000. So if we pull up one of those transactions, you can go and see. Let me see if I can pull it up here. You can actually see the amount of money that is flowing out of. What do we got? No, crypto whale bot. Right one. Nope. I forget the name of it. But there's essentially a bot that tweets out anytime there's a transaction over about $500,000. And there were numerous transactions. I think there was one that was like a $70 million transaction that was sent from Bitfinex to another wallet. Just a lot of money moving away from Bitfinex. And that brings up the potential and the controversy of a bank run of people kind of taking all of their money out of Bitfinex, running away, or just getting that to somewhere that they deem more safe and efficient. And that could obviously lead to a number of problems. The other end of the spectrum, though, too, if we look at that, is, I'll pull up, there was a good article here, or a good chart from, I think it was Trade Block. Let me pull that up for you guys. Definitely something worth keeping an eye on. Yeah, so it's Trade Block, at Trade Block on Twitter. And this was really interesting because yesterday when this happened, I literally the second I saw this on Twitter, I think I tweeted out, it was just like ruh-roh. And because we had at 5:05 the block, and shout out to Frank Chaparro for basically breaking this. I believe Frank scooped the Wall Street Journal, which is pretty nuts to think that my man Frankie Scoops is scooping the Wall Street Journal. But so the block publishes their article, and Frank tweets about it and says, there's an issue with Tether's solvency. That's a problem. And the market didn't move. And I was like, wait, like Tether's potentially in the hole for $800 million. Bitfinex is in the hole for $800 million. Like, there's no way the market's going to react positively to this. Then you have like 15 minutes later, the Wall Street Journal posts about it. Then CoinDesk finally posts about it, 30, 45 minutes later. And then you see the market start to like slowly trickle off, and then just shoot through the floor. And the interesting thing, I think, initially about it was there was a massive premium on, or there's a pretty big premium on Bitfinex. And a lot of that was due to people actually dumping their Tether to buy Bitcoin. So it was actually artificially boosting the price of Bitcoin because nobody wanted to hold Tether. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin asset as well, people are running for the hills on that too. So it presented a really interesting kind of conundrum and kind of a delayed reaction in some respect that I thought was crazy. But luckily, kind of shortly after the block published their article, I hedged myself nicely to not get my face ripped off during that dip. But still, a lot of the altcoins was not the best thing in the world. Oh, that's nice. Oh, there we go. Whale alert too. There we are. I believe that's the one. Yeah, so here we go. Shout out Stefan for this one. But yeah, so you can see, I mean, this is just a bunch of large transactions on a variety of blockchains. You can see 35 million USDC from an unknown wallet to an unknown wallet. But there was a lot happening last evening. Surprised. There's a lot happening last evening where you could see people withdrawing their money from Bitfinex either to other exchanges or outside of Bitfinex. So that's kind of the one part where I still think that there might be another shoe to drop. Somebody else had mentioned that before too. I by no means think we're out of the woodwork with this Tether stuff. I think that there's definitely an opportunity for more instability to happen overall when it does come down to what's happening with Tether and what's happening with Bitfinex. I think that there is, definitely an opportunity for this to sink the market, quite a bit lower and really substantially lower. For me personally, I mean, I think it's really only a matter of time before the kind of Tether. I think there's only a matter of time before there's an implosion here. It just, every time in crypto where there's smoke, there's fire. That's always kind of been my thought process. Anytime, you can see the smoke from a mile away, and it has been smoking for multiple years now, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And I feel like there's most likely some kind of bad culmination that will happen. And it's eventually just going to go down, and it will bring the crypto market down with it. And then 6 months from now, you're hopefully just going to look back at that in the history books and say, okay, the market shrugged it off. was obviously a negative short-term event, but in the long run, this was kind of a necessity for these markets to mature and for Bitcoin to mature. So that's my just like overall thought on it. So I'm essentially hedged right now to basically neutral for my crypto exposure, just because I do think that there is an opportunity for this to move down quite a bit lower. So that's where my head's at. I don't know what you guys are thinking about as well. Would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. Whether you are on, whether you're on Periscope or if you're on Twitch or on YouTube as well. And then John, what's up, dude? Does the New York Giants crappy draft make you proud to be a Jets fan? Is there any room on the bandwagon for us? John, you're welcome to come aboard, brother. I'm so on the Jets pick. Apparently, he was, the best player available. And I don't want to get too excited about an interior D lineman. The Jets have drafted, between Mo Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson, Leonard Williams, and they've all had some nice moments, but for the most part have never been like holy shit game changers. It is what it is. But I think, when you go for the best player available, I don't think there were any other players there that really, outside of Josh Allen, maybe was somewhat interesting. But the Giants drafting, I don't even know his name. What the hell is the quarterback's name again? The most unnotable person ever reaching for him at 6 when you could have had any number of quarterbacks last year in the top 10. When you had the second overall pick, you could have had Sam Darnold, you could have had Josh Rosen, you could have had Josh Allen, and you blew it. Giants management's trash. Giants management is more trash potentially than this whole Tether scenario. What am I sipping on? I am sipping on Pinhook straight rye whiskey on ice because I'm a wimp and I don't drink it. I don't drink it neat. I just drink it just with ice straight up. And yeah, it's pretty good. It's from Frankfort, Kentucky. Smooth. I think the bottle is maybe $35, $40. It's pretty good. So that's a good thought, and I think it's something potentially temporary, but I don't know how long this would really last. But when you're looking at, so Richie Rich says, if Tether has no reserves and is a scam, and essentially insinuates that this would essentially push the price of Bitcoin up because people would be dumping their Tether and then buying Bitcoin all the way up. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know how long that would last, because I think if Tether implodes and things go bad with Tether, yes, there will be a lot of people that hold USDT that will be buying Bitcoin or potentially buying other stable coins with that as well. But basically, they'd be running away from Tether as fast as possible to get into any other asset that will hold value, and that could potentially pop up the price of Bitcoin. I also do think that there would be a variety of other people that would sell their Bitcoin into any number of US dollar or fiat cryptocurrency or the regulated ones as well, because I think that they would see that as a pretty large macro impact and want to get out of just the crypto market as a whole. So I would, maybe there's some level of a kind of a mini pump, but I don't think that would be incredibly sustainable in my personal opinion. And so to move away from some of I would say to move away, and we can definitely touch more on this, but to move away from some of the topic around Bitfinex, because I think that has been literally the first comment in the thing was like, you need to stop copying other people's content. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, this is the biggest crypto news in the past 24 hours. I haven't looked at YouTube, and I haven't looked at crypto YouTube, and I've either been on Twitter or just been working. So I don't think I've been copying anybody's anything. But if you want to cry and bitch like a little boy, then go for it. And then he deleted his comment, so he gone. But so on the other end of the spectrum, we have E-Trade, and this is pretty interesting. I believe this was Nathaniel Popper who tweeted this one out, and he is a New York Times writer. So a couple kind of bullish things that are in the works, and this is what I was talking about. I think in literally the last video I talked about, I was like, you know what, I'm pretty much full long exposure right now. I feel pretty good about things. I feel pretty confident. I think there's a lot of just good macro events happening right now. There's a lot of like positive forces. Good things are happening. And then this Tether bullshit pops up again. And then I think in my personal opinion, I think it has a little bit more legs, and there could be some near short to midterm issues with it. On the other end of the spectrum, there continue to be these like positive effects that have been happening, these positive kind of movements. And one of those is not only has TD Ameritrade, which is obviously a large retail brokerage that is working on opening Bitcoin trading for some of these customers, E-Trade is preparing to begin, and this is as of 4:00 tonight. This is E-Trade is preparing to begin offering both Bitcoin and Ether trading to its 5 million plus customers, and is just finalizing a third party to actually custody the coins. That's pretty damn incredible. So, I mean, that is really, really, that in my opinion is one of the more like kind of bullish things to hear about. I think we need to see a lot more context outside of Nathaniel's tweet. But that would indicate, I think, some really positive things. Having the infrastructure potentially in place for regular individuals who have an E-Trade account, which at 5 million plus customers that are kind of in that basically in that financial mindset. I myself have an E-Trade account from just stock options and restricted stock units at companies I've worked at in the past. So I have an E-Trade account. Would love to see the opportunity to have Bitcoin and Ether commingled with a variety of other assets, because right now, for the most part, you have Coinbase and you have all these kind of crypto exchanges siloed into just the crypto kind of aspect of it. But if you have this commingled E-Trade, or Bitcoin and Ether commingled with stocks, equities, a variety of investment instruments, I think that's really interesting and really compelling. And yes, I said commingled like 7 times, Nick. And where's my man DJ N107? This show kind of sucking, kind of like your mom. Whoops. I'm selling my BitConnect for Tether. That's a solid trade. I like it. DJ, and you're the one crying, brother. You're the one crying. Ben Zemla, XRP bouncing back nicely today. XRP, so I had some thoughts about this. First of all, XRP has really eaten shit since I would say since kind of December, when a lot of other altcoins were doing pretty well. This is at least against the Bitcoin pair. But this mid-November or late December to the start of 2019, XRP has not performed very well, where a lot of other altcoins did. Granted, XRP performed pretty well in late 2018 when a lot of other crypto assets were not doing so hot, but there has been a slow and steady sell-off here, and that's down 44% against Bitcoin in the past, really about half a year or so. And the one thing that I think is pretty interesting for me personally is, so I'll pull up Masari, and Masari covered, I believe it was the Q1 report came out for XRP. Let's see if we can pull that up. All news. There we go. So Ripple, their sale of XRP cryptocurrency grew 31% in Q1. I don't think that's necessarily a great thing. For me, this is, and I didn't even have an argument with somebody. There was like an XRP person on crypto Twitter that was like, I wrote about this being inflationary and being an issue, and somebody's like, that's not true. That's not true at all. This, to me, is not like seeing this trend. If I'm not an XRP holder, and I'm not gonna shit on any XRP holders right now. I'm gonna be actually respectful for the most part. But the fact that Ripple is selling $170 million of XRP essentially on the market, they do it programmatically and they do it on exchanges, I think that's an issue. Is there actually $170 million of real legitimate demand there to absorb that sell pressure? That's a lot of sell pressure. You can, in my opinion, you can kind of consider that as inflation. And if you pull up, let's see if we can get here. So current inflation, if we pull it up, the way Masari calculates it, that's 27% inflation. That is substantially higher than Bitcoin, substantially higher than Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, EOS, Litecoin, BNB. It is basically higher than everything else in the top 10 except for Stellar. And I do think that that is a legitimate concern for, it should be a legitimate concern for any XRP holder, in my personal opinion. Yeah, I guess it's maybe good if you're thinking, okay, they're using that money to fund operations and to potentially get partnerships and somehow increase the utility of a crypto, of XRP, whatever it might be. But on the other end of the spectrum, is there really legitimately no bullshit $170 million worth of actual demand to buy and not dump XRP on the open market? And I think when you look at the price so far in 2019, you see that it's down 15% USD, where everything else is basically in the green. So I think that's something that just in the future I would keep an eye on. If you are, and again, I'm not an XRP fan whatsoever, and most of the time I'm being an absolute jackass when I do talk about XRP, but I'm being halfway respectful here. And I do think that 27% inflation, which I do think that them selling Ripple Inc. selling XRP on whether it's programmatically to exchanges, whatever they're doing, I think that is an inflationary thing. It's almost the equivalent of mining for Bitcoin or for Ethereum or for staking rewards or whatever it might be. It's sell pressure. Sell pressure is sell pressure, and that's something that people have to deal with. What's up? Classic is coming. That is a good question. Opinion on high DAI CDP fees and alleged issues in leadership. I don't know too much about the leadership issues. I've seen some of the articles, and apparently there's some infighting or was some infighting with the CDP or MakerDAO team. The one thing I'll say, it's because it was really interesting with DAI, where you had DAI at, I think DAI opened up in the market where it was Ethereum. The price of Ethereum was like over $1,000, and people look at DAI and they're like, wow, DAI held its peg all the way down from like $1,000 to $80 Ethereum, and then the second ETH bounce from $80 to wherever we're at right now, like 150. That's been an issue, and because there have been so many people, I think that have been opening up. There have been so many people opening up CDPs with the Ethereum kind of price so low and taking out DAI, and then immediately taking that DAI and buying ETH with it, essentially levering themselves up on ETH. So I think what we're seeing is that DAI works really well, or kind of the MakerDAO DAI system works very well for DAI stability in a bear market. Potentially not so much in a bull market, because there's not a massive incentive for me, as if I am much more compelled to hold DAI in a bear market. I want to hold on to a stable coin in a bear market. I don't want to sell it because I think everything else is dipping. There's a lot more demand for DAI in a bear market. Right now that 2019, let's take the past like 5% dip out of the fold here. It has been a good year for Bitcoin, for Ethereum. Bitcoin's up 40%, Ether's up 15% on the year. It's been a pretty good year so far. So there's not as much of a demand for DAI because people are interested in crypto exposure, and you're starting to see that raising the stability fee isn't that efficient in some respects. So, or at least at the number. And so, I mean, even for an example, like I have a CDP that has, I think, like 90 ETH in it. So I have a stability fee that has 90 ETH in it. I opened it up when it was like at $130, when ETH was at like $1.30, and I immediately took the DAI from that and I bought ETH with it. So I took 90 ETH, put it in. I got, I think it was 4,000 DAI back, something in that range, and then I immediately took that 4,000 DAI and bought whatever it was, like I don't know, 30 something ETH, and the price of ETH has gone up somewhat nicely. It was up to like 180 before, at least in a DAI pair. Now it's not, but I'm still up from where I am before, and I for me, you can raise this. I think that the price of Ethereum is going to go higher in the medium to long term. So I'm not necessarily, you can move the stability fee from 1% to 5% to 10%, whatever it might be. I still don't necessarily want to move my ETH back into something else. So The other interesting thing is there are alternatives right now, pretty substantial alternatives, whether it's Dharma or Compound. There's a couple ones out there. Let me see if I can pull up loan. Trying to remember off the top. The Loan Scan is a cool website here. If you guys are interested in the kind of crypto lending, borrowing world, I've talked about this before. Some people are dumb and think that it's BitConnect. It's not BitConnect at all. You could see open finance and centralized finance. But so right now, if you were to lend your DAI on Dharma, you would make 14% interest on an annual basis. You'd make 14%. If you were to do that on Compound Finance, you'd make 5.75. If you wanted to lend your Ethereum or your Ether onto Dharma, you'd make 2.5%. And then also they have Celsius and Poloniex and Bitfinex as well. You'd make about 7% on a number of stable coins on Celsius, which is pretty damn good, pretty damn respectable. In addition to that, so I think this is a pretty cool website. It's loanscan.io. If you're interested, it also keeps track of all the loans that are opened up on the Ether blockchain. So pretty cool website for sure. So a couple good questions so far. What do we have here? Tether is scam. I'm never saying it's not. Classic is coming. What is your favorite crypto to fiat service other than Coinbase? I mean, for me, I still use Coinbase as a crypto to fiat service. It's my preferred one. I know people have issues with Coinbase. That's totally fine. But for me, I use Coinbase for crypto to fiat. It's been my go-to for a long time. I've never had any issues with it. Again, I know people do. It is what it is. I don't agree with every business decision Coinbase makes. Outside of that, I know a lot of people like Square for Bitcoin purchases. That's another one. I don't know if Robinhood might be example or might be available in your state. I don't think that is necessarily the best one, but if you're just trying to get crypto exposure, it's not too bad. Also, Gemini too. I think that the Gemini fees are quite high for retail, so I don't use Gemini, but that's me personally. Happy Friday to you too, Jay Loiter. And so we can get back into the Bitfinex drama a little bit here and talk about that. And again, getting a lot of questions here. If there's anything you absolutely must have answered, throw it in a super chat if you're on YouTube, and I will 100% get to it then. But if not, I will do my best. So what do we got here? Oh, of course, it doesn't pull up the right person. This is also going live too. There was a good take from Matt Levine at Bloomberg on Bitfinex and some of the issues that were going on there. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to. I wasn't able to pull it up here. But the one thing that I think was interesting, and there was some commentary in this article that he wrote. There's kind of two sides to it, and I got into I don't want to. It wasn't an argument, but it's just a little back and forth. That was good on Twitter. And Bitfinex, I think there's a possibility that they started out and they were very legit, or they were legit and they were in good faith, and because of the way there are banking restrictions in the cryptocurrency world, especially for exchanges, they had to resort to third, fourth, fifth, like 10th quality, 10th tier quality banks, and basically had to move their funds around all the time to the detriment of their customers. and kind of brings up the almost the thought exercise of what happens if like Wells Fargo and all these companies never cut Bitfinex out of the equation. What happens if they were able to bank with an actual legitimate tier organization? And would this have ever happened? Would Tether be way more legit if they had, always been able to maintain real legit tier banking partners? Would they always be in a good position, or is just the fact that everything that they've done, and whether or not you like Tether, you don't like Tether, the fact that they are basically missing $800 million and didn't really tell customers about that, and kind of swept that under the rug. I don't think that's in my opinion, that's not really good management and kind of good business practices. And especially like your customers deserve better. If you are going through issues, then I think that they should be able to know, and it shouldn't be broken by the Block and Wall Street Journal and some other companies out there. So Bitcoin is going to 42 cents next week. I'll be poor as shit if that happens. I watched another YouTuber say that they were investigating this for close to 2 years. He feels this was done for re-election purpose for personal gain. Um, Re-election on who? Random guy on the internet. Thank you for the comments on my hair. I appreciate that. My barber would be very happy about that. And that is funny too. Shooter McGavin on Twitch. A bank in effing Poland is controlling the fate of crypto right now. And yes, there's it's not lost. It's seized and it is secure. It's seized and secured. That's what it is. It's not lost. All is fine. All is good. We're fine. We're totally good. There's no issues. Don't worry about a thing. We've got this under control. So this is a great question there. What do we got here? Pull it up. Does anybody, so to preface this, hey, Dollar Bill, what's up? Thank you very much for yourself being a new watcher. Anybody else who's new to the channel by any chance, I appreciate you here. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button if you are new to the channel by any chance. But Stefan says, thoughts on Brave being upset that Gab is forking, or Gab, G-A-B, is forking their browser and using Bitcoin instead of BAT. It's on Decrypt Media if I haven't seen it. I indeed have seen it, and I do think it's interesting. And this was something that was 100%. So this was definitely celebrated by Bitcoiners. I'm not going to say Bitcoin maximalists, but Bitcoiners. And there was the whole war of words a little bit, or a little bit of war of words on Twitter. But does anybody utilize Brave browser at all? I'm personally utilizing it right now. But does anybody actually use Brave outside of that? Would love to hear from that. If you do, let me know in the comments. So Gab, which is a kind of an online social media network, for those who aren't familiar, it's, I would say, a small but like loyal core audience. Sometimes they are associated. With like, I don't give a shit about politics, but I feel like sometimes they're associated with right wing politics that have been deplatformed. Don't give a shit about politics. Don't drag me into politics. Keep me out of politics. Whatever. But so Gab is a company that has this social network. They've had Gab for a while, and they're big Bitcoiners. Or the CEO, Andrew Torba, has always been a Bitcoin guy. And they have developed this. Basically, it's a browser extension, and what it allows for people to do is there's a lot of companies that have basically banned the comment section on the internet. Like I remember CNN used to have a comment section. I think it was Discord or Discus or something like that. I think it was Discus. CNN used to have a comment section, and that shit was wild. And even I'm like a Barstool guy. I'm a stoolie, but I don't pay for the gold. And I think they banned the comment section for everybody but gold members. And the Barstool comment section was freaking wild. And comment section is on the comment section on the internet. I would just skip the article and go straight down to the comment section. But a lot of places that ban the comment section because either there's just stuff that they don't want to see there, or they think it's inappropriate, or they don't want to be associated with it, whatever. And Gab is building this this extension that'll go on the side where like you'll be browsing a CNN article that has the comment section gone, but they have this extension called Dissenter that will allow anybody who has the extension to comment on it. So basically, you can, CNN doesn't want you to comment on it, but this says, hey, fuck you, you can comment on it anyway. Or wait, excuse me, whoops, sorry. So that'll say that, and they developed that, and then they were removed, I believe, from the Google store. They were removed from like the Apple store, the Safari store, the Firefox store. Basically, Gab just gets deplatformed all the time. So that happens, and Gab gets deplatformed. So Brave itself, I think is kind of like a fork of Google Chrome. They took a lot of the elements from Google Chrome, and they have their own thing now. Obviously, I'm on the Brave browser right now, and for me personally, Brave is pretty legit. Like a lot of people are like, oh my God, they raise, if you want to debate the semantics of raising through an ICO and basic attention token not being needed for anything, go ahead. But you don't actually need to use basic attention token at all with the browser. So like for the people that are like shitting a brick of like, oh, it forces you to utilize like basic attention token. Like I've literally never touched BAT in this. I never touched it, and I probably never will, hopefully. But so people are freaking out about that. And what Gab is doing is they're taking the Brave browser, and they are, since it's Brave is open source, they're taking the open source elements of it, and they're just building their own browser with their plugin built into it. And the CEO of Brave, Brendan Eich, was like, well, your plugin better be pretty legit. I think if we go down, like, he said this, like, so I guess if you want to say, if calling them a parasite is pretty aggressive, but he says, answer this: what kind of parasite forks an open source browser to get an extension distributed to people who can already work around silly App Store bans? So this was definitely picked up like by the Bitcoin community, because the Gab CEO was like, hey, we're gonna remove the shit token BAT from this, and we're going to implement Bitcoin, and we're going to implement Lightning. And that's cool. Like, that's fine. If you want to do that, it's fine. But I really don't think, at least in my personal opinion, and this is totally my personal opinion, I don't think they're doing that because they're like, they hate the basic attention token that much and they love Bitcoin so much. They're doing it because they have to. They need their own browser essentially to host their application and to host their extension, because nobody else will. But then that brings up the issue of like, you have to have some hardcore ass users that really love your stuff and really love your if you if they're going to download and solely utilize your separate browser. And then also you kind of run into the problem of you basically now need to become a browser company. Like, that's cool if you open source fork it once, but there's stuff that happens all the time with browsers where you need to update them, you need to improve them. Like, is Gab really going to become a browser company? And I think that they would need to become competitive. Like, do you love Gab that much that you're just going to utilize it? I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I have no idea. That's my overall thoughts on it. Richard, why? Yeah. So I mean, I have basic attention. I'm set up as a I guess contributor, or I don't exactly, I forget the as a performer platform, I don't know, but my YouTube and my Twitch profile on basic attention, or on Brave, are set up to accept basic attention token donations. So if anybody goes to my website or to my YouTube channel and likes my stuff, they can contribute to me, which is awesome, and I appreciate that. But for me personally, like, I don't have a set, like, all I was saying with that was, you don't necessarily, publisher, I'm an idiot. Thank you, Richard. Yes, I'm a authorized or kind of certified publisher on Brave, on YouTube, Twitch, and my website. So you can go there if you want to donate some BAT to me, and I actually receive that in BAT, but it's not required to use the system at all. Like, that's for me as a YouTuber. I could also accept that in Bitcoin. I could accept that in anything, but I take that in BAT. So that's just kind of where I'm at this point in time. but you do not have to you don't have to interact like with. I mean, I can even pull up the settings here. I think. Let's see. I don't think I have anything. So person one, like I don't have Brave rewards. I don't have much going on. This is just like out of the box. It blocks a bunch of stuff. I like it. I mean, it's a good browser, and but at the same point in time too, like that's the point of open source. If Gab wants to, go ahead and fork it, use it and enjoy it, and use that's you're supposed to. That's the point of open source. My only point is like I don't think it's necessarily being forked because like bat is the worst thing in the world, and I don't even really like own a lot of bat. I think I maybe have like $20 for the bat, so I don't give a shit about bat. I know a lot of people do, but for me, I don't think it's about bat. I think it's that Gab has been deplatformed by so many places, and they need a place. And rather than it's them forking off Brave is the easiest way to have their own thing. Vitalik, my buterin. I like the name. I don't give a shit about CryptoBobby.com. So do I. So let's see. Stefan says, interesting conversation today. Do you think some companies use open source as a way to get free work and just don't think someone will copy their cash cow main IP? I think that was so there was a Telegram group I'm in recently, and that was a conversation around Augur versus Gnosis. And I thought it was pretty interesting too because it brings up the subject of like these certain companies that develop a protocol and actually develop like the main user interface on top of it versus a company like Augur that has a user interface but now has Veil as well as Veil, and I think Gesser is the other one. There are companies that have been based and actually receive funding to build on top of, on top of Augur. And then you also have companies like 0x where they're primarily building the protocol and then kind of doing outreach to their community to have developers build on top of 0x. Then you have a number of relayers and other companies and websites that utilize 0x. So I do think that is an interesting point. And I think that there are certain companies that do that on purpose with the open source, and some companies that like they secretly don't actually want anybody to build anything open source on them. And it's an interesting kind of dichotomy there. Also, when you look at cryptocurrency, if it's something with a token, does value accrue to anybody that actually utilize? So, like in the case of a 0x or in the case of some of these other assets out there, like is there value accrual if there are a bunch of relayers that are very popular, or are they just basically kind of extracting rent almost, or taking the hard work of the 0x team or the Augur team or wherever and not necessarily providing any value back to them? In an ideal world, if somebody builds something on top of Augur, there is some type of kind of like, Augur's done a bunch of work on top of it, and then ideally there would be some way, not necessarily to pay them back, but hey, maybe there'd be a value accrual to the rep token. And I don't think anybody's necessarily nailed that yet at all. DGN, I'm not watching Jeopardy right now, but I'm assuming that dude that has won $1 million is still playing. He takes all the fun out of it. He is the biggest stud on the planet and the smartest guy on the planet. And that guy will go forever on Jeopardy without anybody beating him because he is definitely the best Jeopardy player, obviously, of all time. But I don't know what Jeopardy's going to do because he's never going to lose. Never going to lose. He's going to continue to win and win and win. So taking a look, scrolling back through some of these questions. Obviously, ask away to as many as you'd like. And he beat Watson, probably. So this is something I think worth keeping an eye on as well, is just the other stable coins that start to kind of move around. Because ideally, in my ideal world, what'll happen, and I know there's still a lot of commentary, a lot of questions around a lot of questions around what is going on with Tether. And for me, I think the ideal scenario is not that. Obviously, I personally don't think that Tether is sustainable in the long run. I don't. But what I would ideally like to see is kind of a slow and steady migration away from Tether, where it just becomes less and less and less and less and less relevant to the cryptocurrency market as a whole, to exchanges. And I do think a lot of that is on on behalf of the exchanges. I think places like Binance, and other cryptocurrency exchanges out there, I would love to see Binance, we're delisting BSV because we're just whatever, we're delisting BSV. Honestly, BSV is cool, that's fine. I applauded that decision. I literally have a shirt on right now that is. So I got that shirt on, but I would love to see Binance actually, and maybe maybe they've seen, maybe they know behind the industry, maybe everything's fine, maybe everything's cool, but if Binance were to kind of just slowly remove Tether markets, and if a bunch of exchanges got together and were like, hey, we're gonna figure things out somehow, and we're gonna migrate from Tether to Paxos into GUSD into USDC into TUSD into all these other freaking tokens out there that are now these stable coins that are more auditable or audited and actually have a one-for-one basis, that'd be awesome. And I do think some of this stuff falls in that, but what happens if there is a slow and steady migration? So keep an eye on what happens with the market cap of Paxos and GUSD and TUSD, because literally 2018 was a bunch of companies out there that created stablecoins, and they are legit or more legitimate stablecoins that are either US based or audited by companies in the US, or just more responsibly done, or DAI, which is more obviously more of the decentralized stablecoin. So so Richard says, how do you feel about other fiat backed stablecoins versus something like DAI? And then the second question there is, what stablecoin is most creditable? Or I guess I'll say what stablecoin is the most what stablecoin do you maybe has the most credit? What do you like the best? I guess I don't know. And to that respect, I would say that I have good faith in USDC. I have faith in Paxos. I have faith in GUSD. Also TUSD as well. So I mean, there are 4 stable coins that are, I think, backed by good companies that you would likely be able to redeem for $1. And you, at the very minimum, you'd be able to hold on to that. Even if you weren't able to redeem, there were some issues with people having funds from sketchy areas or whatever, and not able to redeem their stable coin directly for $1. They would still hold their value. I don't think they're necessarily going anywhere. On the other end of the spectrum, hold on one second here. I'm frozen and I look wonderful, so let's see if we can fix that. Frozen Bobby, there he is. Nope, he's back. Shout out to my camera. That was a great look, wasn't it? But so getting back into those stable coins, I think those 4 are pretty legit. I also like DAI because DAI is more decentralized. I'm not gonna say it's perfect. It is not, oh my god, the most perfect perfect token ever, but it is more decentralized. There are issues with stability on DAI. There are no doubt issues with stability on DAI. However, nobody's necessarily going to say to you, hey, you can't redeem this at any point in time. But I do like DAI as well, and DAI is very extensible within the decentralized like cryptocurrency ecosystem too. What am I drinking? Apple juice and fentanyl. I don't even know what fentanyl is. Is that like poison? Try and avoid that one. But no, it's bourbon. No, why say no? This is a weird bottle. If you can, let's zoom in on this. Bourbon rye that's named after a horse or some shit like that. I don't know. Who knows? White Zinfandel. No, I don't drink white wine. White wine is for not men. Vital licked my butyrine. You is fucked up. We can tell. Well, I hope for my sake that I am not effed up on one glass of rye whiskey because that would mean I am a lightweight and I'm about 175 pounds or so. So that would mean I cannot hold my liquor anymore. And I haven't been drinking as much, if you guys have noticed on the streams, because I'm trying to hit the gym more, doing some good things. But finally getting tired of water. RC Phantom. I do have some. I do have some water over here. So Pinot Noir. I am a Pinot Noir fan. I'm a Cap Sauv fan. Oh, red wine's red wine. Nolia, that's a really good question. Will these inter blockchain communication networks like Polkadot affect stablecoins? So I'm unsure about their kind of full effect on stablecoins. I do think that Polkadot and Cosmos are both something to watch in the crypto space. I think that both Polkadot and Cosmos, I think, have a lot of buzz from people that are, I would say, like the smart money in the crypto space. And granted, the smart money is not always smart. Like we could definitely be honest there. That sometimes the smart money makes really dumb decisions and thinks just because they have whatever degrees on paper and sick experience at Goldman or whatever other Wall Street firm that they're smarter than the cartoon on Twitter. A lot of times they're not, but the smart money is pretty big into both Cosmos and Polkadot, and think that right now I think a lot of people think BNB or Binance Chain is like the Ethereum competitor, and oh my god, Binance Chain is going to kill Ethereum. And I think that a lot of other individuals think that both Polkadot and Cosmos are more of a threat to Ethereum than Binance Chain is, and I would tend to agree with that. I need to do a little bit more research on some other components of things, but it's funny now too. There's like weird. I don't know if they're like spam bots or whatever, but I manage the AirSwap Telegram, or I'm an admin in the AirSwap Telegram, and multiple times a day somebody joins the AirSwap Telegram and now says move to BNB chain. And it's interesting, and I talked about it before too, because it is possible for, if you are a company, a project, whatever it might be, that built something that is on Ethereum, or not necessarily that's built on Ethereum, but just utilizes ERC20 tokens. Now, and doesn't interact with the Ethereum blockchain basically at all outside of the ERC20 token. Yes, you could move to Binance chain, no problem. You just switch your token, your ERC20 token, to whatever the BNB token is. On the other end of the spectrum, though, if you're actually like intertwined, if you are leveraging Ethereum, that's not an easy transition. And people are like coming in and be like, oh my God, you need to join BNB chain, BNB, BNB, BNB. It's like, all right, relax, guys, relax. Captain Gaff, when will BTC surpass its previous all-time high? Mid 2020. I'm gonna pull a number out my ass because I don't actually know anything. So, interesting question. Rules for Rebels. Does Steemit have any future, or is it a sinking ship? So, I used to use Steam actually pretty often, and I need to get back to posting on it. But Steemit's interesting. It hasn't really changed all that much, I would say, in like the just in the past like year or so, probably over a year. Like there haven't been that many significant updates to Steemit, and I do think that there are legitimate opportunities to kind of come in and beat Steemit. And one company that's trying to do that right now is Cent. Like even now, like Steemit hasn't advertised here. Like really, like come on. If you're not going to sell the if you're not selling the ad block, like just get rid of it. Like nobody's actually clicking on this and buying it. Like let's click on it. Hey, there's come on. Like nobody's doing that. But there was a time where like, you know, these top people on Steam, or let's see the trending. Okay, so some people still make a good amount of money on it. It's interesting. But I don't know. It's Cent's another one. So if we pull up where's Cent, Cent is directly trying to compete with Steemit. It hasn't gotten there from a user standpoint yet, but Cent looks to be pretty decent. It's based on Ethereum too, so you can do some kind of different components with Cent. I don't know all that much about like. I'm not going to predict anything on Steam's like long term, long term future. It needs to be easier for people to use. It's it's just not easy enough for most people to use. Dollar Bill, Bobby, what do you like about Bitcoin SV? Absolutely nothing. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say absolutely nothing about Bitcoin SV. That's what I like about Bitcoin SV. Bitcoin SV is a Vitalik, my buterin. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that $2. Down a buffalo chicken wrap with no shirt live. Um, not a prostitute slash stripper, so I might need more than $2 to eat a buffalo chicken wrap live with no shirt on, brother. Oh. Yes, that's a good point. Rules for Rebels. It's really interesting when you look at Steam it, when you look at Cent and a lot of these other ones where you get paid for the content. And so there's this kind of interesting debate, obviously, with you have companies like Facebook out there that make a shit ton of money of every user. Twitter makes obviously a lot of money. Social networks make money off of their users. And what happens if you provide that money back to the users, right? That's the whole goal of decentralization in some respect is you're providing money back to the users. But when you provide a financial incentive to a user to utilize your platform, what does that do for the user? It makes you're attracting people that are number one financially incented to use that platform. You're attracting people that, for the most part, the people that are going to Steam to post there are trying to make money. There are certainly some hardcore Steam users that love the platform and would basically die for the platform, but you have people that are financially incented there, and then you also have a lot of people like in the comments section and the upvotes, like they're trying to play the game, they're trying to make money, and it can lower the quality of the content. It definitely can. I don't think there's any debate about that, and it's something that is absolutely worth thinking about in the long run when you look at a lot of this. Jorge, are you still holding Numerai right now? I made mostly that was a short term trade on that. I have a tiny bit, but I cashed most of that out and moved it back into Bitcoin. So right now I'm not holding a ton. Stefan, thoughts on Nike getting into crypto and Samsung investing in Ledger? So I need to remember, is it crypto kicks? What do they call it? What do we have here? Some of the more, I would say, nefarious. We'll go to CCN. Why not? So Nike surprise crypto play could steal Facebook's thunder. Like let's relax with that. Numero uno. I am not a massive fan of the whole Facebook kind of Facebook cryptocurrency stuff. It's just not my, like, a lot of people like Facebook is going to lead the way into daily adoption for cryptocurrency and put crypto in every house. Yeah, and it's going to be $1 billion of Facebook coin owned by Andreessen Horowitz and Kleiner Perkins and Benchmark. Like, it's going to be a bunch of Silicon Valley VC firms on Sand Hill Road that are buying it and then somehow making money off of a Facebook stablecoin. However, I don't know if Nike is stealing Facebook's crypto thunder. So CCN, let's relax here a little bit. And I don't even know, like, I don't know what the hell CCN is doing. But so apparently you have Nike that went out and put out a trademark on a digital currency called Crypto Kicks, which sounds like your 7-year-old nephew went out and decided to hire a lawyer and was like, hey, I like cryptocurrency. I like sneakers. Hey, what's Crypto Kicks? We'll get into it. So that is, that's apparently happening. There was some, I don't know who, I think this was the guy who found it, Josh Gerben. Yeah. So Josh Gerben found it. Apparently he's a lawyer. I don't know too much. But what are my thoughts on that? I mean, obviously it's good to see. I think it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh my God, buy Bitcoin. I think that if you are a large Fortune 500 company and it takes you your internal lawyers a few hours or whatever to throw a trademark out there or to patent something, whatever it might be, you're trying to future proof a few things. You're trying to just kind of make sure that if this crypto thing is legit, if it is actually something in the long term, you'll be fine with it. So you might be positioned, whatever it might be. Does it mean that Bitcoin is going to the moon and that you're going to have a cryptocurrency QR code embedded in your Nike Air Maxes? No, not necessarily. But I will wear my Nike Air Maxes maybe tomorrow just to celebrate. I don't know. Daniel Barnett, yes, I did already talk about the Eli Manning stunt double that was drafted last night to play Eli in the story about Peyton Manning. The Giants are screwed. The Giants general manager is an idiot. I am smarter than the Giants general manager, and I am very dumb. But yeah, it sucks. Sucks to be a Giants fan right now. I really do. Is Daniel Jones, right? Yep, Daniel Jones. Have fun with Daniel Jones, Giants fan. Saquon Barkley's going to run for 7,000 yards, and Daniel Jones is going to throw for 6 touchdowns and 27 interceptions. Shit cone of shoes. So Jorge posts this article. I think it's an E-Trade. I already talked a little bit about this, but yeah, so this is syndicated from the block. Jorge posted this, and it is literally on Bloomberg as well, but this was broken by New York Times, Nathaniel Popper. But yeah, I spoke about this before. This would be I mean, this would be huge for crypto. This would be huge for Bitcoin. I think this is one of the more bullish things to actually see. I mean, outside of an ETF, just as far as extending the ability. And I'm not going to say just because E-Trade might offer the opportunity for an individual to buy Bitcoin or Ether, that automatically means the price of Bitcoin is going to go back to $20,000 and that Ether is going to go back to $1,000 or $1,300 or whatever it was at. Not going to say that whatsoever. But if you don't think that it is a positive thing to have Bitcoin and Ether available to 5 million plus investors that are investing actual legitimate assets into the stock equity markets, into bonds, whatever it might be, into stock units, it's a very positive thing to see. And I, for one, applaud E-Trade for actually going out on the actually going out and going through the process of doing that in a relatively quick manner. So I like to see that. I'm happy about it. And I think a lot of these, I mean, I do think as you're starting to see this too, one interesting thing, and I didn't really think about it previously, but looking at TD Ameritrade, looking at E-Trade, when you think about these financial firms, these brokers, you look at it and you think about cryptocurrency adoption, and I'll put adoption in caps here, or in quotes, excuse me. But when you think about cryptocurrency adoption and how these financial firms are working, a lot of it is like a game of they're waiting for one firm to make a move. They're waiting for one firm to start doing it before they're going to make the move. And then there's one company that goes out on a limb, takes a risk, and might perhaps stumble or kind of mess up something, but at least they went out and took a risk. And then once they go out and do that, you have a lot of companies, a lot of firms that'll end up following suit. And I think the TD Ameritrade news that's happening, the E-Trade news that's happening, obviously Fidelity has come out, and Fidelity is one of the more respected names in the industry. It's kind of this whole convergence in this catch-up game where I think you saw Fidelity making a move, then you have TD Ameritrade, you have TD Ameritrade, then you have E-Trade. It's fairly compelling. I mean, it really is. It is definitely pretty compelling to think about, to see. And I think that will also happen when you look at the Wall Street firms too, because last year you had Goldman Sachs was rumored to be getting into potentially starting a Bitcoin trading desk or a cryptocurrency trading desk, and no major bank in the U.S. at least has started trading Bitcoin or cryptocurrency for their clients. But once one does, others follow suit. So maybe Goldman goes first. Maybe eventually at some point in time, Goldman is the first one to trade, Bitcoin, trade cryptocurrency for their clients, trade it internally, whatever it might be. Then all of a sudden, hey, there's Citibank, there is JP Morgan, there's Bank of America. And it's, one domino has to fall and the rest just kind of go afterwards. What's up, Robert Aronavachi? Am I still in love with TRX? I've always this is great. I'm a big time fan of this. Where's my man Justin Moon? I love that face. I could pinch it. What do we got here? This was the funniest shit ever. Hold on. So Justin came out, and Tron is partnered with Tether, and Tron has created a Tron version of Tether, TRC20 Tether token, and they had this big live stream talking about Tron and Tether, and you could trade Tron, you could trade Tether, and like 2 hours later, you have the New York Attorney General like, yeah, Tether and Bitfinex might be out like $800 million, and it's like, well, there's the problem. It's a partnership made in heaven. You have you have Tether and Tron, two scams in one. Corbinian, it's amazing that Justin Sun is still so popular. That is what happens when you buy Twitter accounts. Oh, God, I love it. I did laugh at that though. It was quite funny. Definitely pretty good. Issue with one of my Tether or XRP. Woof. Woof. I don't know, man. You guys choose. Tether XRP. What's your choice? That was funny too, Daniel. I tweeted I think I tweeted about that earlier today. Like, what do we got here? And it's funny too, because obviously there's a lot of, I mean, rightly so. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of kind of problems with what's going on with Tether right now. But it's not like there aren't other stablecoin alternatives. Yes, Tether is deeply intertwined into the crypto ecosystem right now. Yes, there is a shit ton of volume on Tether. Yes, it's traded on Binance. Yes, it's traded on Bittrex. Yes, it's traded all over the place. But there are so many freaking stablecoin alternatives that are actually legit now, because all these other companies looked at it in 2017 and 2018 and were like, yo, Tether is doing so well, and they are the most illegitimate company on the planet. And what if we just did this and just did the exact same thing, but maybe did it like a legitimate business? And hey, maybe we can make some money and get some volume. Here we are in 2019. Corbinian, yes. So very, very high level. Corbinian says, I still don't understand DAI and MakerDAO. The fees are only if I use MakerDAO, right? That is an excellent point. So if we go over to, so if we look at MakerDAO, what do we up over here? So there's kind of two concepts with there's really like two concepts with MakerDAO and DAI. So number one, there's two tokens. There's Maker token, which is the government kind of payment token. You have DAI, which is the stable coin. And you have this thing called the CDP, which is basically what prints DAI. And then you can trade DAI freely afterwards. So to give you guys a really high level example, and this is glossing over a bunch of shit, but if you're not familiar with DAI, this is helpful. So what happens? What makes DAI? So if you are somebody, basically to create DAI in the market, what you do is you open up what is called a CDP, or a collateralized debt position. And what happens is you need to be, I believe it's, if I remember correctly, I've done this 2 or 3 times, but I dumb and forget. So you need to basically collateralize a loan, and you over collateralize the loan. So what happens is you put in Ether and you get out DAI. So like, let's say if I have 10 Ether, I have 10 ETH and I want to take out 100 DAI. What I would do is I would put 10 ETH into this smart contract using this CDP system. And what that will do is that will print me back 100 DAI tokens. And the value of a DAI is supposed to be paired to $1. If you go to CoinMarketCap, there have been issues lately with DAI's stability, not necessarily staying at $1. It's been around 97, sometimes 96 cents, at 97 cents right now. So what happens there is once you, what the hell is fat BTC? Oh God, this is hello wash trading, fat BTC. I don't know who you are, but I assume you're not real. So what happens when you go ahead and, like, once somebody goes and they take that DAI that they got from their CDP, once they have that DAI, they can do whatever they want with it. They can trade that to somebody else. They can go to a decentralized exchange or to a centralized exchange potentially, and they can trade that. What can they trade that for? They can trade that for Ether. They can trade that for other cryptocurrencies as well. The most prominent pair is Ether because it's DAI is essentially an ERC20 token. So you can go ahead and you could do that at any point in time that you'd like. And the thing is with DAI is there is a stability fee for opening up a CDP. Now you can trade DAI as a user at any point in time without ever touching a CDP. That's the differentiator. CDPs enable DAI to enter the ecosystem, but you don't ever have to touch. Like I go to any decentralized exchange. I go to any centralized exchange I want that has DAI, and I could trade ETH for DAI and DAI for ETH anytime I want without ever having to touch a CDP. However, there's this concept of a CDP and the stability fee, and the stability fee is basically how much it costs to close your loan. So you're basically taking out a loan, and at some point in time, you're going to be charged an interest fee in your Maker token. So the one thing, Corbinian, you have to know is like you can go to Kyber, you can go to AirSwap, you can go to Uniswap, you can go to Coinbase, wherever you want, Bitfinex, KuCoin, any of these places, you could trade DAI. You'll never have to worry about a stability fee. The only time you have to worry about that is if you basically take out a loan through the CDP process. Maker was a fad, new idea that is already dying. Check the price action. Maker pumped really hard. I think the price action recently is obviously not super great. Let's pull it up. I think it's on. So Maker pumped crazy hard. It was up, what was it? From the bottom, Maker was up 250%. It's fallen, I think, over 60%. 50%. So Maker's down 50% against Bitcoin. And there are definitely some issues. And a lot of this started around the times that the stability fees started moving up. So I don't want to get too into it because I think it's not necessarily a boring topic, but it's kind of a detailed topic that a lot of people might not be interested in. But yeah, Maker's token is having some difficulty right now. Is what it is. Yes, exactly, Corbinian. So yes, you could hold DAI token in your if you are somebody so you have ETH in your wallet right now. You have ETH in your MetaMask, or you have ETH in your Ledger, whatever it might be. You have Ethereum in your wallet, and you want to hold on to that. However, the Bitfinex news came out last night. You're like, holy shit, this is bad news. I want to move out of this as quickly as possible. I take my MetaMask, I plug it in, and I immediately want to hold it into something that's stable. What you could do is you could immediately move that into DAI, and what that will allow you to do is basically have stable value. You would not ever pay a fee. There's no stability fee associated with that whatsoever. Rules for rebels. Can Americans get in on Binance Launchpad ICOs, or are we barred from them all? Land of the free, home of the you can't buy shitcoins anymore. That's where we're at with that's where we're at with Binance. That's where we're at with ICOs. That is where we're at with basically everything. If there is a possibility that something could potentially in the future be an unregistered security, you are not going to have access to that in the United States. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon which way you look at it, you're out of luck. Lal, what about using a VPN? If I haven't gone through that process with Binance, but I'm assuming you need to be a KYC user, and I think this is correct, but I'm pretty sure you need to be a KYC user to participate in Binance Launchpad token sales. So a VPN would not make a difference in that scenario. Guys, at this point in time, been live for, I don't know, it's been crypto happy hour in 20 minutes or so. I am out of whiskey, or I'm out of ice, and I haven't eaten dinner yet, and it's like 8 o'clock, and I'm a hungry child. So I am probably going to go out and fetch myself some dinner, something to eat. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy this crypto happy hour. Shout out to Bitcoin for not dumping as I was live too. That's kind of nice. I mean, if we look at the hourly candle where I was live, it was actually green. That's a blessing, and that's a blessing in disguise. So I will take that any day of the week. But I really do appreciate everyone's time. If you enjoyed this video and you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Thanks to everybody on Periscope and on Twitch as well. So thank you all for your time. I really hope you have a fantastic weekend. I'll be around this weekend too. I might do another crypto happy hour or might do a recorded video. So stay tuned for that. But really do appreciate the time. Signing out. Peace, everybody.